Hi children, how are you? Are you staying at home? Are you safe? Oh, I think you are safe. Today we are going to discuss a poem where the mind is without fear. This is a thought-provoking poem by Nobel laureate Ravindranath Tagore. Tagore is a poet, dramatist, and often refers to as the bird of Bengal. This poem was originally composed in Bengali in 1900 under the title Pradhana, which means prayer. Later in 1911, Tagore himself translated this Bengali poem into English. It is one of the best poems in the anthology, which means collection of poems, called Gitanjali, which was published in 1912 and won the prestigious Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913. When the poem was written, India was under the British rule, and people were eagerly waiting to get their freedom from the British rule. When Tagore composed this poem, and his mind was confined by the chains of slavery like any other common citizens of India, because India was under the clutch of the British rule where freedom was like daydreaming. This poem was written in the form of prayer to God. He urges God throughout the poem with his mysterious concept of freedom from the struggle for awakening to his countrymen and for a true freedom for his country. This is the background for this poem. Now I am reading this poem for you. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where the words come out from the depths of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards the perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits, where the mind is led forward by the into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country away. Into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country away. Now, let me explain this one and two lines. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. In the very first line, the poet prays to the Almighty that his countrymen should be free from any fear of oppression or forced compulsion. He wishes that everyone in this country his head held high in dignity. In other words, in a truly free country, every person should be fearless and should have a sense of self-dignity. Where knowledge is free. In the second line of where the mind is without fear, the poet dreams of a nation where knowledge would be free. Education should not be restricted to the upper classes only, but everybody should allowed to acquire knowledge. Not only that, the children should learn freely from the nature and the world around them. They should not be forced to memorize some predetermined lessons, and this is Tagore's typical concept of education. The former president of America, Barack Obama, used these first two lines of the English version in 2010, his speech to the joint session of Indian Parliament in New Delhi. Now let us see 3 and 4 lines, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. In the next 2 lines, the poet emphasizes the unity of not only his countrymen but also of the entire world. He thinks there should be no division among the people based on their caste, creed, color, religion, or other baseless superstitions. In other words, prejudices and superstitions should not divide the people in groups and break their unity. This is the meaning of 3 and 4 lines. We shall move to line 5 and 6, where the words come out from the depths of truth. In line 5, where the mind is without fear, Tagore wants a nation where the people are truthful. They should not be superficial, and words should come out from depths of their hearts, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards the perfection. In the sixth line of the poem, the poet wants everyone to work hard to reach their goal and in the long run to reach perfection. He thinks they should not be tired by working. People should not be lazy and ignoring their work. This is the meaning for 5 and 6. Let us see 7 and 8. Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits. In line 7, the poet compares reason or logical thinking to a clear stream. And in the next line, compares dead habits or superstitious beliefs to a dreary desert. He wants the stream of reason not to lose its way into the desert of prejudices. In short, people's thought should be monitored by rational thinking, not by superstition. Logic should rule over old baseless beliefs. Line 9 and 11. Where the mind is led forward by the into ever widening thought and action. In line 9 and 10, the poet wishes his countrymen to be progressive and broad minded. He wants that their minds are led forward to ever widening thought and action by the Almighty God. In short, we should be open minded and do something unusual or extraordinary, overcoming the narrowness of mind. Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. In the final line of the poem, the poet addresses the God as Father. He asks him to awaken his countrymen into such a heaven of freedom where the above conditions meet. In this poem, to make it clear, the poet prays to the Almighty Father to raise or lift his country to such heights where freedom would be realized at its best. In turn, he is actually praying that God awakens his countrymen so that they come out from the darkness of ignorance, prejudices, disunity, and all other evils. Finally, in the poem, the poet's message is very clear. If all the people of the nation are not wise enough to lead a happy and peaceful life, free from all evils, they cannot enjoy their freedom well. So, to the poet, only political freedom is not so important unless you are fearless, self dignified, knowledgeable, truthful, hardworking, and broad minded enough to enjoy it. So, this is the meaning and explanation for this poem. Have you understood, children?